For Congress to do, if the president sends up a proposed extension, is to allow all 50 states to experiment at the state level with developing a mandatory training component of unemployment compensation, so you'd have 50 parallel experiments and not pretend that Washington knows best or that Washington can solve the problem by itself. But I believe deeply people should not get money for doing nothing.
Now I turn to my colleague, Chris Wallace. Chris.
Brett, thank you. Good evening, candidates. Governor Huntsman, in Utah, you offered millions of dollars in tax credits to promote clean energy. In June, you said that as president, you would subsidize natural gas companies. How is that different from the Obama administration, which gave the solar panel company Solyndra $500 million in federal loan guarantees? And as we all know, that company ended up bankrupt, and we taxpayers ended up on the hook.
Chris, first of all, it's an honor to be here in Orlando, home of my wife, the greatest human being I've known in 28 years. We've learned some important lessons as this economy has spun out of control. We have some hard decisions to make, and we're not going to fix the problem. We're not going to be able to bring our people together in America until we fix the economy. I'm convinced that part of the divide that we're experiencing in the United States, which is unprecedented, it's unnatural, and it's un-American, is because we're divided economically. Too few jobs, too few opportunities. We have learned that subsidies don't work and that we can no longer afford them. I believe that we can move toward renewable energy, but we're going to have a bridge product. Everybody wants to draw from the sun and draw from the wind, and I'm here to tell you that eventually that will make sense, but today the economics don't work. We need something like natural gas. I put forward an energy independence program along with tax reform and regulatory reform. Just by drawing from natural gas, for example, you're looking at 500,000 to 1 million jobs over the next 5 years. It is ours, it's affordable, it has important national security implications, and we should begin the conversion process.
But just a 30-second follow-up, sir. In June, you told the New Hampshire union leader, as president, you would subsidize the natural gas industry.
I would be willing to begin an effort so long as there was a rapid phase-out. I do not like subsidies. I do not like long-term subsidies. But if there was some sort of way to get the ball rolling with a quick phase-out, I would be in favor of that.
Mr. Cain, I want to follow up on your 999 plan for economic growth. That's a 9%. Well, they seem to already know what it is, but for the few who don't, it's a 9% flat corporate tax, a 9% flat income tax, and a new 9% national sales tax. Now, conservatives usually say, repeal the income tax before you impose a new tax. Isn't there a danger with your 999 plan with these 3 taxes that some government down the road after President Cain is going to increase 3 forms of taxation on Americans?
No, there's no danger in that. And first, let me answer Dave's question with the 999 plan. Unfortunately, nobody up here answered this question. He wanted to know, as a small businessman, what are we going to do in order to help him as a small business person? I have walked in Dave's shoes. This economy is on life support. That's why my 999 plan is a bold solution. It starts with throw out the current tax code and pass the 9% business flat tax, the 9% personal income tax, and the 9% national sales tax. This is the most important part. It eliminates or replaces corporate income tax, personal income tax, capital gains tax, as well as the estate tax. Then it treats all businesses the same. And the people who are paying only payroll tax, 15.3, that 15.3 they don't have to pay. Now they only have to pay that 9%. And unlike Governor Romney's plan, my plan throws out the old one. He's still hooked to the current tax code. That dog won't hunt.
The rule here, as we all know, is if your name is mentioned in an answer, you get 30 seconds to respond. Governor Romney.
That's fine. I put my plan out. I want to make it very clear that my intent is to help the people who've been most hurt by President Obama's economy. And the people who've been most hurt are the middle-income families of America. And that's why my plan says that if middle-income families want to save their money, anybody earning under $200,000, and not pay any taxes on interest, dividends, or capital gains, 0 tax on their savings, that's the plan I'm for, and I'll get that done in my first year. Thank you.
Congressman Paul, I want to show you the video that got the most votes of all the video questions submitted to YouTube. And this one comes, as you can see, from Brandy and Michael in Spencer, Indiana.
There's growing concern among Americans about the size and the scope of the federal government and its infringement upon state and individual rights.
If you're elected president, how do you plan to restore the 10th Amendment, hold the federal government only to those enumerated powers in the Constitution, and allow states to govern themselves?
Congressman, what's your answer for Brandy and Michael?
Well, obviously it would take more than one individual, but the responsibility of the president would be to veto every single bill that violates the 10th Amendment. That would be the solution.
Anything else, sir? You got a little time left.
Well, I'll tell you what, that is the subject that is crucial because government is too big in Washington, D.C. It's run away. We have no controls of spending, taxes, regulations, no control in the Federal Reserve printing money. So if we want government, whether it's medical care or whatever, it's proper to do it at the local level as well as our schools. But there's no authority in the Constitution to do so much of what we're doing. There's no authority for them to run our schools, no authority to control our economy, and no authority to control us as individuals on what we do with our personal lives.
Thank you, Congressman. Brett?
Okay, we got to the full answer there at the end. Governor Johnson, same question to you about the 10th Amendment. With this added, you are an outspoken libertarian. What makes you a better choice for libertarian Republicans than Congressman Paul?
I'm not going to presume to make that assumption, but I would like to say that I do bring a unique perspective to this stage. I started a one-man handyman business in Albuquerque in 1974 and grew it to over 1,000 employees. I have run for 2 political offices in my life, governor of New Mexico and re-election. I promise to submit a balanced budget to Congress in the year 2013. I promise to veto legislation where expenditures exceed revenue. And if anybody doubts my willingness to veto bills, I think I vetoed more bills than any governor in the history of the United States. I think I vetoed more bills than all the other governors in the country combined. Add to that throwing out the entire federal tax system and replacing it with a consumption tax, the fair tax, which would absolutely reboot the American economy because it does away with the corporate tax to create tens of millions of jobs in this country.
Governor Johnson, thank you. We'll be coming back to the issue of the economy throughout this debate tonight. As I mentioned at the top of the show, we'll also be checking in with our own Shannon Bream throughout the night to get real-time updates from people watching. Shannon.
Hi, Brett. Well, this is the most interactive debate ever, and it's thanks to our partner, Google. You can go to youtube.com/Fox News. What happens there is folks can see the debate streaming live, but also to the right of the screen, all night long, we are sending out questions so we can get your answers at home, and you can participate and weigh in. Brett, a little bit earlier, asked Governor Romney how he defines rich. It's a question we put to folks out on the internet as well, and we've got the results. Here's the question. I define rich as someone having an annual income higher than 100,000, 13% of you weighed in there. 250,000, 22%. 500,000, 22%, and the majority went with $1 million annual income. That defines you as rich. 44% of those who voted. We'll be going through all kinds of polls and data on the commercials. Join us at youtube.com/Fox News. Brett, back to you.
Thanks, Shannon. After the break, we will be tackling foreign policy, government spending. Shannon will have more on that, too, and also the issue of immigration. Now, here for a preview of what's to come, let's take a look at what's called a word cloud. It shows the words that were used most often in all the questions you asked about immigration. The bigger the word, the more often it was used. The biggest word in this cloud, as you can see, is illegal. Back after a short break.